Yo, welcome back to the YOLO show.
Welcome back, man. Like good cook crack.
Ooh, welcome back. It's your boy Yoda Bang and that boy Solo. We back at y'all again.
Like we've never left, man.
Like we never left.
That's BT going crazy.
Hey, OTM, say, I forgot my double cup, I'm in a rush. Hey, level seen an op, grab my Glock, I'm pushing up. Hey, we don't do no V6, this a Hemi, scooting up. I be in my city with them sticks, just pop the trunk. Hey, can't fake the funk. My nigga kill you for a brand new pair of dunks. Sliding with Naughty and Yoda Bang, we smoking runs. I'ma fuck on that bitch, then kick her out just like a punt. Call me up, bitch, I get it as hit. Not no kick and fuck by the bitch. Rob with the geese, I shoot up the shit. Smoke my op to the op, get gone. Rob with the glee, better get your zone. Got no love, that shit be gone. Taking off like a rocket. All them pussy niggas better stop it. Mad at me, I'm the hot top. I was pouring shit, I rock it. Used to be with the glitzy out.
Yo, real still, Bonnie Mo.
Clown niggas want to hang around. Rub milk just to give me the run around. I'm popping. Them VVS can't stop it. Back your head if you think I'm playing, go try me. Ain't going back and forth. Them neck, 5 shots to the bed. To your chest. Let up and try to play my neck. Eagle right there, that's on the set. Harvey Street, that's where I'm at. Roll my out, got 6 to the chest. Lil B, that nigga's a bitch. Did 5 years and sticks on the bitch. Ain't this game till your brother get hit. I'm probably person my op get hit. Probably person my op get hit.
Probably person my op get hit.
I'm probably person my op get hit. Bitch, pussy, cartel business. Oh God.
This ain't high school, I got this Glock all in my letter. Hey, niggas out here doing funny business, David Letterman. Hey, Sunday service, bitch, I get paid like the reverend. Whoa. Can't talk without this Zaze pipe, I need my medicine. Whoa. Can't do a show without it, so you know we got the medal. Can't take a picture with no guns, you know I got felonies. Steady speaking on our name, shit gon' get your melon split. Hey. Niggas ain't gon' slide, they gon' hide when the beef comes. Hey. Niggas steady talking about it, smoke, but ain't gon' be none. I show you how to be a player, nigga, be a let's go. Let me show you.
Yeah.
Mix it up, I got the recipe.
Let's go. Hey, quit playing with us. OTM, nigga. Bang, man, nigga. Nigga, TT cartel, pussy. Over.
Yes, sir. Back again. I don't know which one we gonna which one you want to start on. Yeah,
let's go.
You know what I'm saying?
Shout out Bonnie Mo, Richard Macon, Real Spill.
Yeah, shout out Bonnie Mo,
Big Fresh,
Real Spill, Richard. You know what I'm saying? I'll let
So just you out.
You got the what you call it over there? You gonna put it on your tab?
I can.
Yeah, my shit might get the trips.
Take off your cup. Yeah, that's good.
You see it?
Yeah, I see it. There we go.
Brutality.
Wait a minute, look at this man's arms. He's ghost riding the whip Mario Kart in a different dimension. How fitting he got caught with 2 lefts, because he's certainly not all right. Unplugged the controller like poultry on the other end of the refrigerator. He's frozen in time. Fight me.
Shouldn't have been talking shit.
And now for some of the best fighting edits on the internet.
Motivados.
Saw it coming, but don't. Carolina's out close.
Oh, Lord, the right hand put this man on vibrate. He's celebrating Valentine's Day in the shadow realm.
Guess what day it is? Hump day!
Get happy. Get Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
There's no recovering after this. You got another man making your legs wiggle.
Pause, Granddad.
Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle.
That's crazy.
Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle.
Concombs punch. This motherfucker's dead.
Oh my Christ, buddy, in and out the ring at the same time. Why the referee still counting? You can't see that man's incoherent. He looked like a disabled animal.
You lose. Now die.
Homie fell like a Grand Theft Auto NPC. Just look at his face. Disappeared like Jimmy Hoffa in the 1970s. Look at the eyes.
And he had
of
that
homie
nigga
in
as
the front
manager.
row. You would have thought he just witnessed a murder the way he looking around in concern. Nearly detached his upper half from his lower half. Who knew dating apps got so advanced? Shorty in the front row was swiping on Tinder. A man landed in her lap seconds later. Imagine your last moment in the ring turning into a Christmas ornament.
And now a word from our sponsors.
What's cracking, Jeremiah?
And for whatever
Shout out
reason,
Jeremiah.
information is online, despite the fact that you never intended for it to be there,
Shout out
or
Jeremiah.
maybe you constantly get phone calls from robocallers, and you're wondering how did
Won't
they
let me
get your
skip it
number?
either, bro.
That's because data brokers are selling your private information behind your back. But today that stops because I'm going to introduce you to Aura.
The sponsor of today's video. Aura can identify data brokers exposing your information and submit opt-out requests on your behalf. Might I
What's
add,
good,
they do
ATA
so
Grid?
much more to protect you and your family from online
Shout out
threats
ATA
you
Grid.
can't even see. Brokers are legally required to remove your information if
That
you
is
ask them to,
Moses.
but they make it super hard to do it. Let Aura handle it for you.
Me personally, I can't stand spam calls. It drives me up a wall. Finally, I've been able to stop them from ringing my phone with Aura.
And it's really easy to set up. You don't have to download several different apps to get things like parental controls, antivirus, VPN, password management, identity theft, insurance, and so much more. You get everything at one affordable price.
So do yourself a favor right now and prevent data brokers from exposing your private information by heading over to aura.com/ChiseledAdonis and start your free 14-day trial to see if your personal information has been compromised. That's aura.com/ChiseledAdonis. Start your free 2-week trial and see if your personal information has been compromised. Let them know I sent you.
And now back to your regularly scheduled program.
Just look at the precision on the kick. Man's hit the pause button, left this brother at the bus stop.
He's just a little boy.
Time to join the marching band.
Fire! Fire!
That's enough.
Fire! 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 Fire!
This man got hit with an unnecessary amount of knees. The second one is what took him out. Everything after that was extra credit. Never in my life have I seen somebody do mountain climbers on another person's head. And to make matters worse, this is from the referee's point of
What up,
view. Why didn't he
Shout out
stop the fight
Commentate.
sooner?
Why? Because fuck them, that's why.
Fire! 1, fire, 2, fire, 3, fire, 4, fire, 5, fire, 6.
So that's the number. Yes, that's the number. That's the number. The number of the day. That's the number. That's the number of the day.
Man's over here got hit into doing yoga. Never seen somebody go into child's pose that fast in my entire life.
Now go kill him.
Forget the takedown attempt. Homie was already asleep. Left hand was lethal. Look at the referee's reaction.
The future is not just going to happen. You have to make it. And if you want a success,
that might be the best ref stoppage I've ever seen in my life. Must have been some form of telepathy that he knew this man was already in the shadow realm. Got caught right on the eardrum, lost his ability to stand, sent him straight to hospice.
Watch out, watch out, watch out, watch out!
He didn't need to do that.
Power
He was
button.
already getting transferred to the CC unit laying on the cage. Now he's casket ready. But now, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the Kumite.
The Kumite?
Nigga, damn.
That was a hell of a hit.
You had it coming.
Can't believe this man went into the afterlife with that haircut. That tennis ball moss head got executed on the mat.
It's my turn!
Dude looked like he was getting hit with a machine gun. It was nothing but his opponent's fist. Look at his feet as he's going lifeless, flailing like a fish on a hook.
You're mine.
Man's got hit so hard, he felt like an anime villain.
You do well.
Farewell.
And he snuck that knee in that motherfucker.
Barrage of hands caught him off guard. Now look at him laying there, looking like a discarded flashlight with no batteries, a nail clipper in the house of a triple amputee, a phlebotomist with a rolling 60s Crips, absolutely useless.
Jesus Christ.
Mans chose the wrong time to throw that kick. Almost shaved his beard. He didn't even need Manscaped. The knees were absolutely lethal today. Mans got caught on the bridge of his nose and he can't smell again. But now, the grand finale.
Finish him.
Let me see that again. I didn't get a good look at that.
Look at his arms after he got hit with the punch. He transmogrified into Eddie Guerrero, looking like Road Dogg before hitting the shake, rattle, and roll. Looked like a victim of gun violence in the movie Shotters. How you bust a move before you get sent to the afterlife. Get the coroner on the phone. Gather the Dragon Balls. Every single one of these dudes gonna need a medic. Somebody please go to goddamn EMT.
Snake, are you okay? Snake? Snake! You said somebody got a doctor out here! Show just stand there, get a doctor out here right.
That nigga, what? Say, he went through putting them motherfucking works in. Nigga, boom, 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 boom. That nigga hit that nigga. Nigga still had his hands up. Nigga doing dance moves out there. Nigga for real. Look at Professor Solo, y'all. That nigga look like Beast off X-Men. Yeah, the blue guy. Yeah. The blue guy.
It's like, yeah. I'm blue.
Yeah. He blue, y'all. The blue team. What the next one is? That was just you know what I'm saying? That was just a little light little, you know what I'm saying?
The secretly hidden breakup of Pimp C and Bun B. Right now, we don't know if this is really true. You know how people on YouTube be. So we just running it and go narrate off of it, man. So don't be mad at us. Be mad at 504 Street Stories.
Yeah, be mad at him. Yeah, be mad at him. Because we ain't just delivering y'all the information.
Do you feel that Bun B and Pimp C were ever really friends?
Bun is signed to rap a lot as a solo artist. As far as I know, he don't even get at me much. Matter of fact, not at all. And I ain't mad at him. I ain't tripping. Just hurt.
And we had some disagreements, like I said. And so because of that, we couldn't walk together.
Pimp, had his own way, his own personality, and Bun was more like a politician.
The way he wanted to walk, the way I wanted to walk, we couldn't walk together. Yep, I didn't knock him, but you got to do that. If that's how you want to move, I can't be a part of that.
Wow.
So you got to go do that by yourself.
B57 beats.
The Underground Kings, aka UGK, are an iconic group from Port Arthur, Texas, formed in the mid to late 80s by Chad Butler, aka Pimp C, and Bernard Freeman, aka Bun B. Some of the first classic country rap tunes would be heard from UGK on The Southern Way. Both from the same area in Port Arthur, Texas, they would even at some point attend the same school. Despite PA's small population of 60,000 with a notable African-American community, it had never been recognized for its rap scene. According to Bun, born Bernard Freeman, he earned his nickname Bunny during his childhood years and would later shorten it to Bun. Bun, who was always smart in school, would even be in some gifted classes throughout his adolescent years.
He was one of these niggas that he did all his work. He made A's and shit and was a smart motherfucker. So we got to a point where, man, I was failing my math and shit. But we was rapping, but he was in advanced classes and I was failing my math.
Although Bun was considered to be a gangster rapper by some, Bun had a very articulate delivery when he spit his rhymes. Pimp, who was the son of a musician, developed a passion for music at an early age. Pimp's musical background included exposure to classical music, soul music, blues music, and church spirituals. Even before embarking on a career as a producer, Pimp displayed a remarkable ability to play instruments by ear, including piano, trumpet, drums, and the organ. Pimp's country slang and smooth gangster lyrics gave him a style like none other. Influenced by Run DMC, as noted by Pimp in an interview, Pimp began crafting beats to rap over after receiving a drum machine and keyboard as a Christmas gift. Pimp's stepfather, who had heard his work, would advise Pimp to put some music into his sound. It was then that Pimp ventured beyond the conventional kick snare formula, embracing 808s and emphasizing hi-hats in his productions. The musical evolution would become a defining aspect of UGK's distinctive sound. These are the detailed events of what took place before, during, and after the fallout of Pimp C and Bun B. In or around 1992, UGK signed to Jive Records under a 5-album contract, releasing their major label debut album, Too Hard to Swallow. While Too Hard to Swallow featured several new recordings, it also featured several songs that had been pulled from UGK's first body of work, The Southern Way. However, several songs that had been intended to be included on the album were not used at the last minute, allegedly due to overly explicit content in the songs. 5 of those songs would surface 2 months before the release of Too Hard to Swallow on an EP distributed by UGK's former label, Big Time Records. That EP would be titled Band. An all-time favorite and cult classic, Pocket Full of Stones, was used on the Menace to Society soundtrack in 1993. UGK's second album, Super Tight, was released about 2 years later. Unlike UGK's previous album, Super Tight would break into the Billboard Hot 200, ultimately peaking at 95. UGK's third album, Riding Dirty, would peak at 15. Riding Dirty would also be UGK's last album for the time being, as they would go on a 5-year hiatus. However, the year 2000 would become a breakthrough year on the mainstream for Pimp and Bun. UGK was featured on Jay-Z's smash hit Big Pimpin', a track that Pimp was actually reluctant about doing. Pimp also appeared on the 3 6 Mafia's hit Sippin' on Some Scissor. Both of these collaborations will greatly increase the demand for Pimp and Bun, not to mention being on the songs turned them into hit records. Jive Records would, however, fail to capitalize on the high demand for UGK.
Homeowners love these new whole home water treatment systems, delivering cleaner, safer water to their
As their fourth album, 2001's Dirty Money came and went in the blink of an eye. As Dirty Money was going through its issues, Pimp was faced with even more problems. Pimp would be sentenced to 8 years for an aggravated gun assault charge in 2002.
Pimp C, a.k.a. Chad Butler, was arrested and charged with aggravated assault with a deadly weapon.
There's never a good time to be sentenced to prison, but Pimp's timing was particularly bad. Texas had just spent 10 years and $3 billion building the largest prison industrial complex in history. Tens of thousands of empty prison beds had generated millions of dollars for private investors who had significant incentive to fill them and keep the money flowing. On his 244th day in the county jail, Pimp and his new attorney faced off against the assistant district attorney and Judge Janine Barr's court to discuss his third probation violation. By this time, the facts of what had actually happened at Sharpstown Mall were irrelevant because Pimp had already pled guilty. The question wasn't whether he committed the crime, but how long he would be punished for doing it. During Pimp's incarceration from 2002 through the end of 2005, Free Pimp C became a rallying cry for fans across the globe due to a campaign being pushed by Bun B. With this, you would believe that everything was super tight between Pimp and Bun. Correct? Wrong. Behind the scenes, there was something even deeper brewing. In her explosive biography, Sweet Jones Pimp C Trill Life Story, journalist Julia Beverly would explore the life of Pimp C as lived through the eyes of both Pimp and Mama West. In Julia's tell-all book, she would expose the fact that Pimp and Bun weren't rocking with each other on the same level that they were before Pimp was locked up.
What experience did that give you from being gone, incarcerated and doing, being away? What did you learn from that?
I mean, first thing off the top, ain't nothing live about getting locked up. Ain't nothing cool about it. That's the first thing. Second thing is, I got to see who was really who in my life, personally. I got to see what side my bread was buttered on and who was going to be real and who wasn't.
Right.
It's a handful of rappers that wrote me while I was locked up, and they wasn't the ones I thought was going to write.
The book would also include an insert from a letter that Pimp had written to Wendy Day, where Pimp would state that Bun wasn't getting at him at all during his bid.
March 1st, 2005 is the date I heard. We have no paperwork. In other words, no contract. In some ways, that's a good thing, and in other ways, it's a bad thing. All I know is that I'm going to do what you tell me to do on my return. I could be home in as little as 10 months. We still owe Jive one record. Bun is signed to Rap a Lot as a solo artist. As far as I know, he don't even get at me much. Matter of fact, not at all. And I ain't mad at him. I ain't tripping. Just hurt.
Despite all of this, before Pimp's passing, he sat down to do several interviews with Bun by his side.
And I was failing my math, but now we trying to rap. And I can remember one night in particular, we sitting in front of this dope house, and make no mistake, we only hustled to go to the studio to do this rap shit. We sitting outside this dope house on a abandoned car, a burn up ass car, and this nigga helped me with my math homework. What was it? Algebra something?
I was Algebra 2.
Trigger some old
Algebra
shit.
Algebra 2 / trigonometry. Algebra 2 first semester.
Yo, we sitting out on the car, and this nigga tooting me, the street light, we got the street light out there, and this nigga tooting me, we doing homework, and Dolphin walking up, and Dolphin walk up and pop the case, ask, do we want to buy that Derringer? And say, man, get the fuck away from us, we don't want nothing but money. That motherfucker say, nigga, what kind of dope men do homework? You know, so this nigga did all he could do to keep me in school. And while he was there, I was all right. It's when he graduated and left me, and then I was there by myself that I was on some fuck school shit. This nigga steady hitting my beeper and calling me like, you went to school today? And I'm like, hell no, nigga, I fuck school. He in Houston, I'm like, nigga, you ain't here now, fuck this shit.
Pimp's first post-incarceration album was titled Compilation, released on July the 25th of 2006. UGK would also go on to release the highly anticipated self-titled Underground Kings. Underground Kings was a double album containing 26 tracks on 2 discs. The album featured production by DJ Paul, Juicy J, Jazzy Faye, Switch Beats, The Runners, Lil Jon, Scarface, and of course, Pimp C himself. The second single, produced by DJ Paul and Juicy J, International Players Anthem, will go on to become a huge success. After Pimp's incarceration, he had become a new man that was standing on business, whether you liked the business he was standing on or not. In this video, we're not going to discuss the distinction between the brothers of Pimp's label. It's a known fact that all brothers fight and will eventually end up hashing things out over time. It's the ones that have picked a side that will be left out in the cold after the brothers hash it out. This video is solely about the differences that Pimp and Bun were having before his death. Let's move on. Years after the death of Pimp, with the rise of social media, all of the ugly behind-the-scenes issues will come to light. Although a few members of Pimp's closer inner circle would all initially voice their opinions about Bun, they would all ultimately revisit the topic, pretty much seeming to have squashed any ill will feelings that they may have had towards Bun. With all of the drama surrounding Pimp's and Bun's relationship, the world wanted to hear from Bun. It wouldn't be long before Bun would take to one of the hottest podcasts on the platform, Boss Talk 101, to give the real spill on he and Pimp's relationship leading up to Pimp's death.
We actually got to say everything we needed to say with him, with each other before he passed away. A lot of people didn't get that closure.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I can sit here and say I have no regrets about everything. I did everything I was supposed to do for him as a friend and as a brother on every level at every time. I was always who I was supposed to be for him. He was always who I was supposed to be, who I needed him to be for me. You know what I'm saying? But the group, there was certain times where I was living a life where the group could not function if that continued. Yeah. The same thing with him. He started living a life where the group could not function if it continued. And we would always get back to that note because neither one of us thought we were better than UGK. Always about the group. I can go out and do some songs and get some little fame. He obviously had a very big personality, had a lot of fans and all of that. But at no point did we ever really think, you know, there's other money. Yeah, it might be some good money to go get, but no, get in that. And before he passed away, we had some disagreements, like I said. And so because of that, we couldn't walk together because the way he wanted to walk, the way I wanted to walk, we couldn't walk together. I didn't knock him, but you got to do that. If that's how you want to move, I can't be a part of that. Wow. So you got to go do that by yourself. But before he passed, we got back on the same page because when he came home, it was real different for Pimp. Pimp was really, really loved and wanted, and everybody wanted time with him. So he was getting pulled by so many people with so much money and all these different things that didn't include me. And I'm like, that's fine. If that's what you want to do, go do it. But it's not what you think it is because I did it 2 years. After he went into county and eventually into the state, then it took me 2 years to figure out how to do a solid show without him. Yeah. I was performing and doing show, but like, damn, we can't do that song without Chad. Damn, why we didn't do this? It took a while to get that to that point. You know what I'm saying? So by himself. It was tough. After he came home, you got to figure out the order. You got to figure out the interaction. It was so different. He had never really been out there consistently by himself. So he have to do every verse. You know what I'm saying? Bro. Ain't no breaks. It's different when it's just you. I commend solo artists.
I have an idea.
That's it?
that
nigga left me on the cliffhanger, man.
Yeah, because I was showing. Hey, I was like, what the hell? I was trying to see what was going on. Yeah, he bamboozled us, bro.
He bamboozled, then he dropped the bomb on in. Like, boom, that was it.
That's some nigga shit.
That's some nigga shit for you, man. God damn, man.
For real.
Damn, man, that shit wasn't no goddamn beef or no end of UGK. He said what he had to say.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't see no beef. That's why I said I didn't see no beef. That's the nigga. I think that nigga just did that for somebody to click on that bitch.
But Bun B had a hell of a run when what you call it was locked up though.
I mean, you gotta have a run. You gotta
have a hell of a run. Your nigga locked up. You gotta have a hell of a run.
You gotta keep it alive so it don't die. If he would just went silent, he went out the door.
He really gave a nigga the recipe for like the group niggas. Like if you in the group, what it means to rep your nigga on. You know what I'm saying? Because he had everybody. He was saying free Pimp C on damn near every song.
Yeah, but the thing is, you saying it on every song, but you ain't fucking with me.
And that's cold.
You feel me?
Cold.
Fuck the song. You ain't got to say the song, nigga. Hit me up.
You ain't hit him up for nothing. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, when nigga on that bitch, it's a whole different monster in that bitch. Niggas be just want to hear from people and shit, man. Especially people you fuck with.
Yeah,
you know
and the nigga saying, and for a nigga to be out there saying free Pimp C and you ain't hollered at Pimp C, it's crazy. That's fucked up, my nigga. You out there screaming free Pimp C on every given song. I remember this, my nigga. I remember this. Salute, Misdemeanor. I remember this shit. I think I got out the pen, bro. I got out the pen, bro, around that time when Bun B dropped that solo album, Trio. When he dropped Trio, nigga.
That was a bad motherfucker.
What was that? Was that Draped Up and Dripped Out?
No, that wasn't on there.
On that album?
I think it might have been on. I think it was. I can't remember what album it was. You think so? Yeah, it was. It was
one of them songs that was like it was like a big song in history. Like, bro, I don't know for like the whole world, but I know for Texas history, that was a bad motherfucker.
Or it might have been on the second one too, Trill.
Yeah.
I think he made two. One was Trill, I think, and one was two Trill, I think.
Yeah.
I don't remember that so long ago.
Yeah, but that bitch, he went on a hellified campaign and he was doing that shit, bro. He had some hard shit on that shit. And for him not to be yelling free Pimp C and you ain't even checking in on Pimp C, bro, you wrong in motherfucker, bro.
But you got to remember this too at the same time. Just because you're in there, shit don't stop.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I'm out here keeping your name alive. I might be out here looking out for your kids, your wife. I'm trying to keep our name alive as a group. You know, I mean, ain't no telling. I mean, just say you don't know what's going on. You don't know what's going on. You know what I'm saying?
Nigga just asked that nigga don't send me one. I'm 4 years in.
You finna come home. You finna come home. When you come home, you gonna be right. Shit, right back in the door. I mean, you got to look at it from every aspect. You know, like
Pimp took off when he came home. When he came on, he had a hellified run for what? He was free for about. I mean, yeah, he was for 2 years, right? Before he died.
Yeah, I think
like two
somewhere around there. Probably 2 years.
Hey, what's good, Corey? I think he was on a 2-year run. That nigga was causing hell in that 2-year run. He had some shit in that 2-year run. Yeah. because they had that pimpulation on that motherfucker. Bun and me went together to get on the MC Fatal. Pick me up from my mom. It was an experience. That's love. That's love.
Real, what the fuck is you talking about, Real Spill?
I don't need to talk to you. Keep pushing
Real
the
Spill
brand.
crazy as shit.
That nigga that hell, my nigga. That nigga say I don't need to talk to you. Pushing the brand, my nigga. Oh, he's saying no. Okay, he talking about Bun B, Pimp C. I guess he's saying Pimp C saying I don't need to
Okay,
talk to
yeah.
you. Keep pushing.
I was
the
like, what the
brand,
fuck going on? I
That's
got
what
lost
he's
for a
saying
minute.
about the situation.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's what he's saying. If I was locked up, keep pushing the brand. Like, you know what I'm saying?
That's why I said you don't know what was going on.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, he was keeping it alive, keeping his name in the street, putting it in their face. So when he come home, look, he took off. Everybody want to fuck with him. Like Bun said. Bun just said I didn't want to go in that direction because I'd already been there. So I know what it leads to. You know what I'm saying? So they can't be mad at nobody in the situation. That wasn't like no real beef. It's just brothers, you know, doing their own thing. You know, so that was some good shit though, man.
Okay. That's loud though. I mean, that was good. That was a good, interesting side, you know what I mean, to get on the show and to speak on, bro, because that Bun B and Pimp C, you know, that shit mean a lot down here in the city. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But in the state of Texas, bro. You know what I mean? Like that's a big deal. You know what I mean? As far as what they didn't call down, and for us to hear something like, oh, they wasn't on good terms, or it was gonna be a breakup, you know, shit, that's breaking news to me. I ain't never heard that shit. It wasn't the same when he got out.
I mean, people shit change though. That's what people don't understand.
Yeah. It wasn't the same when they got out. Yeah, the situation is different. You know what I'm saying? People grow. People grow. You know what I'm saying? I'll grow another person too. I mean, I hope that nigga was sending that nigga money. Well, he didn't have to really, right? Because I mean,
He didn't have to send that nigga no money. That nigga had his own money.
Yeah, all he had to do is keep pushing the brand, and he was gonna get his money.
Bun B don't look like no shiesty nigga, so you know.
Yeah. So I can pop into a bad bill CO, bitch, I want to fuck.
That nigga Pimp C was having his way in there. He ain't had to pop shit. It was just him. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Just him as a person from being from Texas and you're in Texas shit. They were fucking with that nigga and they probably had whatever he wanted in that bitch.
Yeah, niggas like Pimp C and Zero. Them niggas had it their way down there.
Because when I was in that bitch, I had a little shit my way and I ain't even famous. I just know how to talk up on some shit, but shit. So I know them niggas got the fame and all that shit. It's even easier, shit.
Yeah.
To get what you want in that motherfucker. That was all right story. He shouldn't have ended it like that though. He threw a nigga off.
Yeah, he left a nigga on the cliffhanger, bro. I just knew we had like another 5 minutes or something.
I was thinking about maybe even 3.
Yeah, but I just knew he wasn't finna do us like that. Oh, this that new video. This video right here that we finna watch is about El Mencho. Remember the first episode we was talking about El Mencho, you know what I'm saying? His brother went to jail and they freed his brother Scott, let his brother Scott free, didn't want no trouble. That $10 million on his head, ain't nobody want that $10 million on his head. Now they saying that the Los Chapitos, which is El Chapo's sons, that's El Chapo's sons name. They the Los Chapitos.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So them niggas is sending information to the DEA to try to get this nigga El Mencho out of there. I don't know if they want the $10 million for them.
No, they want that position.
or they want that position.
Yeah,
they want that
that's what
position.
they want. They want
you know
that.
what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Just get him out the way. Get his ass out the way. If we get him out the way, then we, you know what I mean? For real.
Yeah, we in that bitch.
We in that bitch. And I think they said there was a little rival between them because I don't know how El Mencho left El Chapo. You know, what was the reasoning and how he left? It might have been a, bad breakup. You know what I mean? Could have been a bad breakup. But shit. Yeah, but this is about.
With El Chapo in jail, his sons, the Los Chapitos, are looking to sell out first-hand info to the authorities. The Los Chapitos' fall guy is El Mencho, as the group sends a disturbing video of America's most wanted drug lord to the DEA. But what exactly do Los Chapitos have over El Mencho? And why are they talking to the DEA? Do they have eyes on the $10 million bounty on El Mencho's head? Or do they hope to free themselves from the DEA's claws? Some say it's all revenge and rivalry, but here are the answers you seek and much more than you can imagine. Los Chapitos snitch on El Mencho. In the maze of drug cartels, the sons of Joaquin El Chapo Guzman, collectively known as Los Chapitos, are figures shrouded in both myth and notoriety. While their father's name became synonymous with the Sinaloa cartel, the brothers, Ivan, Alfredo, Joaquin, and Ovidio, have been thrust into the spotlight. The DEA has now cast them as the new architects of a deadly legacy. Yet, in a surprising twist, without fear or restrictions, Los Chapitos reached out to the media, specifically to prominent Mexican journalist Azucena Uresti, on May 4th, 2023, to clear the air. However, what has set the Mexican underworld at the cusps of a bloody civil war is the hidden message to the DEA in Los Chapitos' letter. In their letter, the Los Chapitos, who are being referred to as promoters of catastrophe, categorically deny leading the Sinaloa cartel or having any involvement in the production and trade of fentanyl that has seized Sinaloa by storm. Furthermore, Los Chapitos urge the DEA to redirect their investigative efforts towards uncovering the true proprietors of the recently dismantled fentanyl labs in Sinaloa. While vehemently denying their leadership of the cartel and disassociating themselves from the burgeoning fentanyl trade, the Guzman brothers seemingly gave the DEA a clue as to where to begin searching for the criminal syndicate behind the proliferation of fentanyl. The Guzmans wrote in the letter, "We have never worked with fentanyl, although there are many in Sinaloa that do produce it, and that's why we have seen the recent seizures. But those laboratories have a name and a last name. Do some research. You would only need to send a single agent to Sinaloa." Los Chapitos also referenced DEA Chief Ann Milgram's April 14, 2023 press conference, lamenting about how the DEA's accusations had put their name in a bad light at the international level. But while the Guzman brothers were careful not to mention any names in their letters, the only other criminal syndicate that is capable of such large-scale production of fentanyl and the organizational framework to traffic enormous quantities to the United States is the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, CJNG, led by the criminally minded Nemesio Oseguera Cervantes, alias El Mencho. CJNG has emerged as the fiercest rivals to the Sinaloa cartel over that last decade. For the ordinary eye, their message may not have much relevance. However, for those who know about the intricacies of Mexico's underworld and the fierce rivalry between the Sinaloa cartel and CJNG over the last few years, the Los Chapitos letter is a giant target on El Mencho's back. More importantly, since Ovidio Guzman's extradition to the United States, several experts believe that the Guzman brothers may have struck a deal with the DEA to help them capture El Mencho, who is one of the most wanted fugitives by the DEA. Hence, their letter has been perceived as a ploy to divert attention from what may be going on behind the scenes. This communication comes at a time when the DEA has moved its focus to Los Chapitos. DEA Chief Ann Milgram publicly condemned the brothers and named them pioneers in the manufacture and trafficking of fentanyl, a drug claiming countless lives across the United States. While announcing new charges against Los Chapitos on April 14, 2023, Milgram branded Los Chapitos as not only successors to El Chapo's criminal empire, but as more powerful and even deadlier, having allegedly pioneered the trafficking of fentanyl into the United States. In her words, in another breath, Milgram has also claimed that the Sinaloa cartel and the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, CJNG, pose the greatest criminal threat the United States has had to deal with. With the announcement of these new indictments against the Guzman brothers by the U.S. Department of Justice, the DEA's relentless pursuit of Los Chapitos reached a critical juncture. These indictments contained the harrowing accusation that Los Chapitos had conducted human testing with fentanyl before dispatching it to American streets. This chilling revelation has not only escalated the DEA's campaign against them, but has also cast a shadow over the U.S.-Mexico collaborative efforts to curb drug trafficking. To strengthen the fight against the scourge of illicit drugs, April 2023 also saw the announcement of a new bilateral commission between Mexico and the U.S. This joint initiative is dedicated to combating the trafficking of synthetic drugs, firearms, and ammunition. The commission's creation is proof of the shared commitment to address this pressing issue, yet it also highlights the gravity of the allegations faced by Los Chapitos. However, complicating matters further, Mexico's President Andrés Manuel López Obrador took a stance that directly contradicted the DEA's narrative, and also that of Los Chapitos in their letter. He maintains that fentanyl is not produced within Mexico.
I'm a therapist who goes to therapy, and some people think that's strange. The thing is, though, therapists are human beings.
Mexico's borders, a claim that not only challenges the DEA's assertions, but also adds a layer of diplomatic tension between the neighboring countries. Amid this, Los Chapitos also used their letter to lash out at the media and influencers, accusing them of exploiting their notoriety for personal gain. They argue that these figures have perpetuated falsehoods, interviewing so-called experts who lack a genuine understanding of who Los Chapitos are. According to them, a lie told 1,000 times becomes a truth. This statement underscores their contention that misinformation, when repeated often enough, can be misconstrued as fact by the public. While stating their reason for finally deciding to speak out and set the record straight, the brothers said in the letter they chose to remain anonymous, thinking that the consequences would silently disappear. But that hasn't exactly panned out as they expected. While Los Chapitos has been made the poster boys of Mexico's illicit drug world and haunted mercilessly by the DEA, a more dangerous threat was allowed to emerge from the shadows. But how did El Mencho become such a feared drug lord within such a short space of time? You see, in the early 2000s, the landscape of Mexico's criminal underworld began to shift. The fall of powerful kingpins left a vacuum, and from this chaos, a new player emerged, poised to climb the ranks of infamy. The Jalisco New Generation Cartel, or CJNG, did not rise to power over decades like its predecessors. It catapulted to the top in a surge that left both rivals and authorities reeling. El Mencho, a former police officer with a keen understanding of law enforcement tactics, had a vision for a new kind of cartel. He saw potential in using extreme violence not just as a means of conducting business, but as a statement of power. In 2010, when the Milenio cartel fractured, El Mencho seized his chance. He formed the CJNG and declared war on all who stood in his path. The CJNG's rise was marked by a series of brutal attacks on rival cartels. They were not content with quiet expansion. They wanted to send a message that would resonate through the underworld. In one of their first acts of dominance, they dumped 35 bodies on a busy street in Veracruz, a gruesome calling card that announced their arrival on the national stage. But it wasn't just the cartel's ferocity that fueled its rise, it was also their strategic insight. The CJNG expanded rapidly, taking control of key ports and trafficking routes. They diversified their criminal portfolio, engaging in extortion, kidnapping, and even local politics. They built a network of alliances and informants that spanned the Americas. As the CJNG grew, so did the legend of El Mencho. With a $2 million bounty on his head, he became one of the most wanted men in Mexico and the United States. Today, that bounty has skyrocketed to $10 million, emphasizing the enormous threat posed by his continued freedom. Yet, despite the efforts of law enforcement, he remained elusive, a ghost in the machine of his creation. Nevertheless, the cartel's expansion was not without resistance. Clashes with security forces became commonplace, and towns were caught in the crossfire. In one of the most audacious acts in 2015, the CJNG shot down a military helicopter with a rocket-propelled grenade, killing 8 soldiers and a police officer. It was a stark reminder that the CJNG had the resources and the will to challenge the state itself. Moreover, the CJNG exerted control through fear, expansion through force, and governance through corruption. They infiltrated police departments and swayed politicians, embedding themselves within the fabric of society. Their influence reached from the poppy fields of rural Mexico to the neon-lit streets of Tokyo and beyond. As the CJN carved its bloody trail through Mexico, the repercussions were felt worldwide. The United States, witnessing the rise of a new threat at its border, responded with the Kingpin Act, targeting the cartel's finances. But the hydra of organized crime is not easily slain. For every head cut off, 2 more seem to grow in its place. Thus, the legend of El Mencho was born, and none has felt more threatened by the continued rise to power of the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, CJNG, than the Sinaloa Cartel. This is why the Guzman brothers' letter to the media has further raised suspicions that they might be helping the DEA to bring down El Mencho, all in a bid to get rid of their fiercest rivals in the dark world of illicit drug trafficking. Los Chapitos vs. El Mencho, bloody rivalry. Born into poverty in the Tierra Caliente region of Michoacan, El Mencho's journey into infamy began with humble beginnings. As a young man, he migrated to the United States, seeking the American dream, but instead found himself entangled in the low-level drug trade. Deported back to Mexico, his resolve hardened and his ambitions grew. El Mencho's early days as a small-time drug dealer were marked by an uncanny ability to evade law enforcement and a ruthless determination to climb the ranks. El Mencho's name became synonymous with methamphetamine, a drug that surged in popularity and profitability. With a meticulous mind, he mastered the art of meth production, using his knowledge of pseudoephedrine extraction to create a product that flooded the streets from the bustling cities of Mexico to the far corners of the globe. The strategic importance of Jalisco cannot be overstated. Nestled in the heart of Mexico, this state offered a geographical goldmine for the operations of a burgeoning cartel. It was here, amidst the convergence of key trafficking routes, that El Mencho seized his chance. From the remnants of the Milenio cartel, a new force emerged under his command, the Cartel Jalisco Nueva Generation. CJN quickly distinguished itself as a cartel, unafraid to use extreme violence to achieve its ends. Under El Mencho's leadership, they expanded their territory with military-like precision, taking control of ports and highways essential for the distribution of their methamphetamine empire. Jalisco's prime location provided the perfect launchpad for CJNG's operations, allowing them to establish trafficking routes that extended their reach across continents. Hungry for more power and control of Mexico's underworld, El Mencho made a bold move that forever shattered the fragile peace that once existed between the cartels. While it is commonplace for rival cartels to square off in violent confrontations that usually result in loss of lives, rival cartel bosses hardly went after each other's families. But that's what El Mencho did in August 2016. El Chapo's sons, Jesus Alfredo Guzman Salazar and Ivan Archibaldo Guzman Salazar, had been partying at La Leche, an upscale restaurant in Puerto Vallarta, when they were kidnapped along with a group of men by armed assailants. The authorities were quick to respond to the incident. Eduardo Almaguer, the Jalisco Attorney General, faced the press with the gravity the situation demanded. He confirmed the kidnapping, saying the Guzman brothers were indeed one of the individuals taken. Initial reports had suggested as many as 12 men were kidnapped, but this figure was later clarified to 6. There was so much speculation about the identity of the perpetrators. The Jalisco New Generation Cartel, CJNG, once allies but now fierce rivals of the Sinaloa cartel, were the prime suspects. The group, although relatively new, was a rapidly ascending player in the drug trafficking scene and was known for their bold moves, including narco-bloqueos, blockades created by setting vehicles ablaze to disrupt law enforcement. The restaurant, now a crime scene, was cordoned off as investigators combed through every inch, searching for clues that could lead to the captors and their captives. The authorities' investigation was in full swing, with the Attorney General suggesting that this was a calculated strike by the CJNG. The patrons who had witnessed the event were in disbelief. Their statements to the police were a mix of shock and fear. The tranquility of Puerto Vallarta had been irrevocably shattered. As the news of the kidnapping spread, the Mexican public and international observers alike were gripped by the unfolding drama. Questions arose about the fate of El Chapo's sons and the others taken that night. What would this mean for the already volatile drug war in Mexico? How would the Sinaloa cartel respond to such a direct affront to their authority? The kidnapping was not just an isolated incident. It was a declaration of war, a challenge to the established order, and a sign that the days of El Chapo's unchallenged rule were coming to an end. The once untouchable empire was showing cracks, and the world watched, waiting to see how the story would unfold. Kidnapping El Chapo's sons was El Mencho's sick idea of announcing his arrival as a major player in the Mexican underworld. However, El Chapo, who was locked up in a Mexico jail at the time, waded in at the last minute to negotiate a deal. As per the DEA source, both sons were released unharmed in exchange for $2 million and a large consignment of cocaine. But this was certainly not about the money. The ransom payment was mostly ceremonial. While summing up the trade-off, the source said, "Mencho doesn't need the money. He was sending a message. Your old man is locked up now. Don't think you're untouchable." As Ivan and Alfredo returned to their territories, El Mencho's message was delivered. There was a new boss in town, and he was coming for everything that the Sinaloa cartel had built. The Sinaloa cartel, under the leadership of Joaquin El Chapo Guzman, had built an empire that stretched across continents, funneling tons of cocaine, marijuana, and heroin into the United States and beyond. El Chapo's near-mythical status was bolstered by his 2 daring prison escapes and his ability to elude capture for years. But with his final arrest and extradition to the United States, States, the iron grip he held on the cartel began to loosen. In the wake of El Chapo's absence, a power vacuum emerged within the Sinaloa cartel. His sons, Jesus Alfredo and Ivan Archivaldo Guzman Salazar, were thrust into the limelight, attempting to assert control and maintain the cartel's influence. But their father's shoes were too large to fill, and the younger Guzmans lacked the experience and the feared reputation that had kept their father's enemies at bay. The CJNG, led by the ruthless Nemesio Oseguera Cervantes, known as El Mencho, capitalized on this moment of weakness. The group, once a minor faction, had grown in power and audacity, challenging the Sinaloa cartel's territories and trafficking routes. The CJNG's aggressive expansion tactics, including the use of extreme violence and public demonstrations of power, had already caused alarm among authorities and rival cartels alike. No one was safe, and the rules of engagement had changed. This set the stage for Mexico's bloodiest cartel rivalry that has claimed hundreds of lives over the last few years, as the Sinaloa cartel and the CJNG continue to slug it out in this high-stakes game of power and survival. More recently, the battleground of Zacatecas, with its strategic position in the heart of Mexico, has become the latest flashpoint in the war between these two Goliaths. The state's proximity to the Golden Triangle, a verdant nexus of drug production, makes it a prize worth killing for. The Sinaloa cartel's historical grip on this region is now challenged by the CJNG's relentless push for control, turning Zacatecas into a war zone where the line between combatant and civilian blurs with each passing day. The year 2021 marked a surge in violence that would shake the very foundations of the state. In June that year, the air in Zacatecas was thick with tension, a prelude to the carnage that would soon unfold. An explosive confrontation erupted, leaving 18 individuals lifeless, their dreams and futures extinguished in a hail of bullets. This was not an isolated incident, but a declaration of war, with each side determined to assert its dominance over the other. Zacatecas was under their protection, and any attempt by El Mencho and his forces to claim it would be met with fierce resistance. The Mexican government, recognizing the gravity of the situation, deployed a force of 4,778 military and National Guard troops to the most affected municipalities. Yet, despite their presence, the bloodshed continued unabated. Week after week, the body count rose, with many victims found hanging from bridges, a grisly testament to the cartel's disregard for human life. The dawn of 2022 brought no respite. On January 22nd, authorities discovered a man suspended from a tree in Monte Escobedo, his life extinguished by a bullet, a narco message left nearby as a grim footnote to his death. Just weeks earlier, on January 6th, a vehicle containing 10 tortured bodies was abandoned in front of the state governor's office in Zacatecas, a macabre gift that underscored the cartel's brazenness. The violence permeated every corner of the state, with raids and murders reported in Valparaiso, Loreto, Pinos, Calera, and Guadalupe. The cartel's war claimed not only those involved in the drug trade, but also those sworn to protect and serve. 3 police officers were brutally murdered in Sombrerete, further highlighting that no one was safe from the cartel's wrath. In a chilling display of their capacity for cruelty, the CJNG left 3 human heads and dismembered bodies in black bags near the municipal capital of Jerez. The accompanying narco message, signed by El Mencho, spoke of a cleansing, a chilling euphemism for the violence they were willing to unleash. The civilian population of Zacatecas, once bystanders in this deadly game, now find themselves in the crosshairs. The cartel's war has not only claimed lives, but has also sown terror and disrupted the social fabric of the state. Businesses close early, streets empty at night, and parents fear for their children's safety as the specter of violence looms over their daily lives. Zacatecas, a state rich in history and culture, now bears the scars of a war that shows no signs of abating, a war where the line between life and death is as thin as the blade of a knife. The hunt for El Mencho. While El Mencho continues to terrorize cities across Mexico, he has also made himself a nuisance in the United States thanks to his burgeoning illicit drug empire. He has achieved this by exploiting the existing drug demand in the U.S. and using any means necessary to fulfill it. As a result, small towns with their limited law enforcement resources became prime targets. The CJNG began to establish a presence in these vulnerable areas, often co-opting local criminals or intimidating communities into compliance. They brought with them not just drugs, but a level of violence and corruption that these towns had never seen. As the cartel's tentacles reached further into the U.S., the American dream turned into a nightmare for many. The once peaceful streets of suburban and rural America became conduits for the CJNG's deadly trade. Methamphetamines, heroin, and fentanyl flooded into these communities, fueling addiction and overdoses at an alarming rate. The cartel's business model was tragically effective, and as profits soared, so did the human cost. The infiltration of El Mencho's cartel into the heart of America has left a once unthinkable impact on the social fabric of the small-town USA. Families are grappling with the loss of loved ones to addiction and overdose, with the number of opioid-related deaths skyrocketing in towns that were once considered safe havens from such urban afflictions. Local authorities and residents recount harrowing tales of young people, once full of potential, now caught in the relentless grip of addiction. Parents share tearful stories of watching their children transform into strangers, and community leaders speak out about the once rare sight of needles littering park benches and playgrounds. The cartel's expansion into the U.S. was not by mere chance, but a calculated move by El Mencho. He understood the insatiable demand for narcotics north of the border and exploited it. The CJNG's network of distribution has since spread like a spider's web across the U.S., from the sun-kissed streets of Los Angeles to the bustling avenues of New York City. Their methods were sophisticated, using legitimate businesses as fronts, corrupting officials, and employing an army of street-level dealers to ensure their product reached every corner of American society. The impact of the CJNG's operations in the United States is staggering. Cities like Chicago once
At Wendy's, you can get
English muffin and seasoned potatoes for just $3.
with a light and fluffy toasted muffin.
And crispy potatoes, love.
This is my breakfast. Yes, yes it is.
Can't skip it.
You gotta watch.
Grab a proper $3 Wendy's breakfast for a limited time.
celebrated for their architectural marvels and vibrant culture, now grapple with the grim reality of being key hubs in the cartel's sprawling drug distribution network. The DEA estimates that a significant portion of the narcotics on American streets can be traced back to the CJNG, with methamphetamine, fentanyl, and heroin being the primary culprits of the ongoing opioid crisis. The cartel's drugs are not just commodities, they are harbingers of death. Families are torn apart, futures are extinguished, and communities are left to bear the brunt of addiction and the crime that follows in its wake. Nevertheless, one of the DEA's most significant challenges is the CJNG's sophisticated logistics and evasion tactics. The cartel employs a complex communication and transportation system, utilizing everything from encrypted messaging to drones and submarines to move their product. They constantly adapt, one step ahead of law enforcement's latest techniques. Despite the many setbacks, the DEA's efforts have yielded successes, with significant drug seizures and the dismantling of several CJNG cells operating within the United States. However, the battle is far from over. The cartel's decentralized structure allows it to be resilient, quickly replacing fallen members and adjusting its strategies to counter law enforcement's moves. The consequences of the drug trade on American communities are deep. The influx of cheap and potent narcotics has exacerbated the opioid epidemic, with overdose deaths reaching unprecedented levels. The social fabric of neighborhoods is eroded by the violence and crime that accompany the drug trade. Law enforcement officers put their lives on the line daily, confronting the harsh realities of this shadow war on the streets. The CJNG's influence has also seeped into the legal economy, with money laundering operations using legitimate businesses to clean their illicit profits. This criminal financial network undermines the integrity of the American economy, its tentacles reaching into real estate, entertainment, and commerce. The story of El Mencho's CJNG is not just a narrative of crime. It is a sobering reminder of the enduring and complex challenges that face the United States in its ongoing struggle against the plague of drugs. It is a battle fought in the shadows, where victories are hard-won, and the cost is measured in human lives. In response to the crisis, towns are rallying together to reclaim their streets. Town hall meetings have become common, where strategies are discussed, from educational programs in schools to increased funding for law enforcement. Local police departments, often outmatched by the cartel's resources, are working tirelessly to stem the tide of drugs and violence. They collaborate with federal agencies, sharing intelligence and conducting joint operations, but the challenge is monumental. On their part, the DEA has also spearheaded numerous operations aimed at dismantling the cartel's network, seizing vast quantities of drugs, and arresting key figures within the organization. Additionally, the United States has gone so far as to classify the CJNG as one of the 5 most dangerous transnational criminal organizations on the face of the earth, while placing El Mencho at the top of their most wanted list, a testament to the threat he poses. Unsurprisingly, this villainous status attracted a hefty bounty, with the U.S. government offering a $10 million reward for information that led to El Mencho's capture. The CJNG's influence extends beyond the Western Hemisphere. Their drugs are smuggled into Europe and Asia, where their potency and purity have disrupted local markets and drawn the attention of global law enforcement agencies. The cartel has become a focal point for international efforts to stem the tide of narcotics, but their adaptability brutality and ruthlessness make them a formidable foe. The cartel's leader, El Mencho, remains a specter, his whereabouts unknown. Rumors of his presence are whispered in the streets, and his legend grows with each passing day. The Mexican government's efforts to capture him have been met with fierce resistance, and the few who dare to challenge the CJAng's supremacy often pay with their lives. But despite the cartel's formidable presence, cracks in its armor have appeared. The recent arrests of El Mencho's family members and close associates have delivered significant blows to the organization's leadership structure and operations. These arrests have not only weakened the cartel's internal cohesion, but have also provided law enforcement with invaluable intelligence that could lead to El Mencho's downfall. The manhunt for El Mencho continues unabated, with Mexican and U.S. authorities coordinating efforts to bring the elusive kingpin to justice. However, El Mencho's elusiveness has left an aura of invincibility around him and the CJNG. Some say he moves with the shadows, others that he is protected by a web of corruption so intricate it is untouchable. What is certain is that as long as El Mencho is at large, the CJAng will continue to operate, and the flow of narcotics into the United States will persist. Perhaps the rumored alliance between the DEA and Los Chapitos may be the final piece to this jigsaw. Only time will tell. To follow up on intriguing developments surrounding the DEA's war against Mexico's underworld, don't forget to click on the card showing on your screen.
What?
Nigga,
What
why
happened?
you snap out of it like that? Why you lit that screen, nigga?
Oh, because I'm making sure it was over with.
You snapped out of it, nigga, and looked to the side like, what the fuck? It's over with? That nigga took my shit down. Nah, man. Hey, salute Florida Water, man. Nah, man, that shit crazy, man. It's a whole war zone down in Mexico, nigga. Whole war zone. El Mencho taking over everything. Them Los Chapitos is in trouble.
Shout out Florida Water. So you think they're in trouble? It's four of them.
Yeah. El Chapo sons, they're in the world of trouble.
Four of them. But it's four of them.
Yeah.
And they still got a lot of money. And you know, one of the dudes locked up, Mitchell locked up, or is it his brother? The brother locked up. So, you know, them niggas still got soldiers too. So we're gonna see how it turn out, because you know it's gonna be a war at the end of the day. Yeah, it's gonna be a war at the end of the day, you know.
Yeah. It's gonna be a war.
The thing is, who gonna win? Who gonna win the war? Now. You know, it only could be one winner.
Now that is the issue. Now that's the issue right there. Who gonna win the war? You know what I'm saying?
Gonna be one winner.
Who ready to go out? Who ready to go out with El Chapo? Sons. Them niggas ready to go the fuck out. Them niggas ain't playing at all. What's next for the people? This ain't that kind of show, bro. No links is being dropped. Let them know. Tree, get on the panel. Yeah, this ain't that kind of show. Yeah, ain't no links being dropped in this one, y'all. We got the next one for y'all. Want the drop link? You know what I'm saying? Y'all want the next? You know what I mean?
Yeah, you gotta stay tuned. The next little show will have a drop link.
Yeah. The next show I have a drop link, my nigga. You know what I'm saying?
Yo, the Marcus talking to you in the chat.
Yoda, you not having nobody up? Why y'all doing that? What you mean no links being dropped? No, it's just this me and Solo right now. This the YOLO show right now. You know what I'm saying?
Shout out committee boy.
You know what I'm saying? Shout out committee boys. Yeah. No. Next show, man, we gonna, you know what I'm saying? We gonna drop the links. I gotta ride it out. You know what I'm saying? The OG Yoda and Professor Solo show. Yeah, man. We want to hear Trill too, though, bro. He put in work. He put his work in. Yeah, Trill gonna be on the next show. All right, let's go. This one right here. This is about what? This right here about them 69?
The 69.
Black guys.
Yeah, what the government tried to erase.
Yeah. We definitely have to put y'all on this one. Definitely.
On March 5th, 1959, something happened in Arkansas that many people don't even know about. A massacre. Black teenagers were left in their dormitory with a padlock locked from the outside and were burned alive. The fire was meant to kill all 69 boys who lived there, but 21 didn't make it out alive.
Nobody ever knew it existed because of the ability of the state of Arkansas to do such a fantastic job at covering it up.
Even now, decades later, there is still no official cause of the fire. Officials in Arkansas turned a blind eye to forensic evidence and never sought justice. But one thing has changed since then. More than 60 years later, the boys finally have a memorial. This is the story of the young black teenagers who were most likely killed by white supremacy. In the 1950s, the history of American boarding schools was diverse, but never equal. This was when schools started accommodating the baby boom and expanding middle class and desegregation. In the post-war era, boarding schools across the country were used for various purposes. These schools weren't just meant to educate or discipline children. They were also used as a way to keep white children away from African Americans. During this period, the level of people's education depended on their race, and there were various boarding schools for different races. Not many of these institutions had multiple races. Now, when I mean discipline, I mean a different kind of discipline than what we use today. Paddling and smacking children was common. Teachers could pull your hair, harm you, smack you, or even use the dunce cap method to humiliate you. These were all common methods for teaching children how to behave. In the South, schools were designed to oppose racial integration strongly. Between 1952 and 1962, numerous schools were constructed in rural areas, specifically for African American students. The state itself built approximately 500 primary and secondary schools, ensuring that each county had one well-equipped school for white students. These white schools were bigger and more technologically advanced than African American ones. They offered an enhanced academic curriculum with greater emphasis on mathematics, science, and literature.
bro.
Industrial schools
Shout
were
out
designed to
Community Board.
educate, employ, and reform juvenile offenders. But the differences between segregated white reform and black reform schools in Arkansas couldn't have been more obvious. White institutions were mainly designed to educate teenagers. Here, the staff treated the boys like students and taught them practical skills that would later come in handy when they were to seek work, such as carpentry or metalwork. But the boys at Arkansas Negro Industrial School weren't so lucky. Arkansas had two such juvenile correctional facilities, one in Jefferson County and the other in Wrightsville, just southeast of Little Rock. I mean, you probably heard about Little Rock, the Little Rock Nine. In 1957, the federal troops escorted 9 black students into Arkansas's Central High School to integrate the school. This was when the South organized a massive resistance, and the rest of the country realized that racial integration wasn't going to be that easily accepted in the southern states. Whites set up private academies to educate their children and use public funds to support their efforts of segregated facilities. They also tried to intimidate black families in every way possible. One way was to make sure that their children wouldn't get the education they deserve. Arkansas is the perfect example of that. And the industrial school clearly represents the sheer disparity between the white and black reform institutions. The boys in the Arkansas Negro Industrial School were treated like prisoners. This facility housed 69 boys, ages 13 to 17, forced to live in horrible conditions. These teenagers were here for being homeless, orphans, or committing petty crimes, some of whom were wrongly accused. They were forced to farm the land around the facility and to do manual labor. The staff beat them with leather straps, and they left them to go on for days, wearing only rags. The boys didn't even have access to a toilet. They were using buckets instead. More than half of them didn't wear underwear or socks, and it was not uncommon for the teenagers to go for weeks without changing clothes or bathing. The water at the facility was also deemed undrinkable. Their living quarters were cramped, with no place to breathe. The boys lived in a building constructed in 1936 under the Works Progress Administration, which Time magazine characterized as unstable or shaky. Systemic poverty brought by white supremacy sealed the fate of these boys.
Hi, we're Visible, the wireless company that makes things visible. With us, what you see is...
Racially disparate treatment permeated the United States criminal justice system. Wrongful convictions were a common practice, and lynching led to the deaths of thousands of black people. This was the Jim Crow South, which profoundly impacted Arkansas's history, and many lawyers would capitalize on African American victims, especially the school desegregation crisis. Here, very few white Americans wanted to live equally with black people. During the period of Reconstruction, states located in the southern region of the United States were placed under military control by the government. The Reconstruction caused numerous changes, such as giving rights to black Americans to vote, giving rights to U.S. citizenship to formerly enslaved black people, the ability to open up black churches, and better access to farmland and education. But when the Reconstruction was over, the South was not having it. They quickly took these freedoms and rights away. It was in their power to do so because the federal government governs the United States from Washington, D.C., but the state government holds huge authority over matters in their respective regions, such as education. Here's how it works. The federal government has national powers. Federal laws apply to everyone in the U.S. Local and state laws apply to the people who actually work and live in a particular state or territory. In a state like Arkansas, the governor would be responsible for making decisions. Orville Faubus was the 36th governor of Arkansas from 1955 to 1967. Now, this is the governor who ordered the Arkansas National Guard to block the entrance to the Central High School to keep the Little Rock Nine from entering the school. He was the same governor who was in office during the dormitory fire on the morning of March 5, 1959. While people were enjoying gospel music on the radio, a breaking news bulletin interrupted the program. It was reported that a mysterious fire had consumed the Arkansas Negro Boys Industrial School in Wrightsville, but the truth was much darker than that. At 4 a.m., the staff abandoned the dormitory. Then someone locked the door from the outside. The boys were forced to claw and fight their way out, while 48 of the African American teenagers successfully escaped the blazing structure by jumping out of a window. 21 teenagers were unable to flee and died that night. When you take a look at the building's diagram, you can see that even if there were a few doors in the facility, there was only one front door, and that one was locked. The boys that remained stuck inside were tucked into the back corner of the building and were burned alive. A couple of years ago, CNN did a story on Frank Lawrence, who has been trying to solve Arkansas's biggest mystery for years. The 48 boys who did survive found a way to break free by removing the metal screens from 2 windows. The shocking incident captured the public attention for a brief time. It also brought attention to the miserable conditions these teenagers lived in. Lawrence explained that the 69 boys would sleep in a cramped space with very little room to move. They had just 1 foot of distance separating them, and they only had a 30-gallon water tank to bathe themselves. A significant aspect of our history involves the prevalence of white supremacy and the long-standing discrimination that African Americans have endured in Arkansas. The idea of separate but equal was never truly equal. Instead, it perpetuated an inherent inequality. Because the building was in such a deteriorated condition, many believe that the wiring is what led to the fire. But Lawrence claims it was intentional. He explained that everyone wants to think that this fire was an accident, probably because they want to avoid further embarrassment for the governor and the state of Arkansas. Lawrence believes that the events during the desegregation crisis with the Little Rock High School students led up to the Wrightsville fire. The burning of the dormitory was a way to scare the black community. It was designed so that black people would say, "Oh no, we are not supposed to be integrating schools anymore. We are going to stop this desegregation and strive to get separate but equal treatment." Before the fire, Governor Faubus visited the Wrightsville school and personally witnessed the poor living conditions of the boys. Yet he did not propose any improvements. But after the fire, in a newspaper article, the governor seemed disturbed by the loss of the 21 boys and referred to the fire as inexcusable. The governor wasted no time and quickly called for a hearing. The goal was to find out what happened and whether anyone was to be held responsible. Lawrence pointed out that in 1959, the knowledge and techniques of preserving a crime scene were already available. However, on the morning of the incident, the scene was being dismantled. People used hoses, rakes, and shovels as if they were trying to hide something. The school staff and superintendent, L.R. Gaines, provided their testimonies about that fateful night, noting that the boys had been locked inside and left unsupervised. On the other hand, the Pulaski County Grand Jury found multiple people and agencies responsible, but did not bring any criminal charges. It basically looks like everyone was being blamed, while nobody was truly held accountable. Ironically, the land where the school once stood is now occupied by the Arkansas Department of Correction Facility Wrightsville Unit. In 2019, the Arkansas Department of Correction dedicated a memorial
How about
site to
Big
the
Fresh?
21 young boys who lost their lives in the fire decades later. The memorial includes a metal plate listing the names of every individual who didn't make it out alive. Numerous family members and those who remembered the tragedy attended the ceremony to pay their respects. But there was a lot of mystery around the spot where the boys were buried. Stephanie Webb, the owner of Haven of Rest, mentioned that the bodies were brought to the cemetery, and a common burial site labeled as 114 was dug to lay them to rest. Based on the cemetery records, shortly after the fire, the remains of the deceased boys, consisting of fragments, were taken to a local funeral home. It is reported that their body parts were wrapped in newspaper. Webb stated that most of the bodies were taken to Dubuisson Funeral Home, which no longer exists today. She expressed doubts about how the bodies were handled, raising questions about questionable practices. But the question I have for you is, why haven't you hit the like button and subscribed to the channel yet? According to our analytics, 93% of you aren't subscribed. Let's change that and get this channel to 1 million subscribers. We aren't just telling stories, we're changing lives and waking the culture up. Now let's get back into the documentary. Lawrence remarked that parents of the boys have the opportunity to select specific body parts as if choosing from a menu, and claimed they belong to their children. Out of the 21 boys, 7 were privately buried by their families. The remaining 14 boys were allegedly buried together in a mass grave, with the state of Arkansas covering the costs of their funerals and burials. When the ceremony ended, family members were directed away from the cemetery and were not permitted to witness the interment of the coffins into the burial plot. So, they didn't see the coffins going down into the ground, explained Lawrence. According to Webb, the cemetery's records indicate that a bronze grave marker was bought for the 14 boys a few months after their passing. This was something that the state also funded. However, she never got to see it firsthand, so she has no clue about its whereabouts. So, what really happened on that fateful day? Lawrence believes the governor and the Little Rock businessman, Dr. T.J. Rainey, were direct contributors. They benefited greatly from quickly selling the land that housed the boys. It would be easy for the governor, Rainey, and other segregationists to conspire and murder these children, especially when they get so much power by owning such an acreage of land. They could then flip it and construct an all-white boys' school in Boyle Park. Somehow, the story faded into obscurity amidst the civil rights movement. The tragedy didn't get the attention it deserved. One of the main reasons this story quickly faded from the news was mainly the prevailing racial climate of the time. During the 1950s and 1960s, the civil rights movement was gaining momentum, and numerous incidents of racial violence and discrimination were taking place throughout the United States. So, the media was more focused on prominent events and developments related to the broader civil rights struggle. The national media, at times, prioritized stories with broader implications, or those that had a more widespread impact on civil rights issues across the country. The fire happened in a relatively isolated and rural region, so it makes sense for it to diminish from the news. In the state of Arkansas, desegregation was a slow and gradual process. To understand segregation and desegregation in Arkansas, we must take a different approach than other southern states. The segregation process varied based on the area, the number of white to black residents, and whether or not these people lived in urban or rural settings. Desegregation involved a number of challenges and a lot of failures. White Americans were still terrorizing and trying to control black people in the early 20th century. It was still a black and white world. From 1882 to 1968, more than 4,700 lynchings took place in the United States. But many historians believe that the real number of black people lynched remains underreported. White mobs often tried to use questionable criminal accusations as a justification for carrying out lynchings. One common allegation was charging a black man for sexual assault against a white woman. Charges of rape were frequently fabricated, serving as a means to reinforce segregation and perpetuate stereotypes portraying black men as violent and overly sexualized aggressors. Black people were also accused of murder, robbery, arson, and vagrancy. Many victims of lynching were brutally murdered despite not being accused of any specific crime. They were killed as a result of violating societal norms or racial expectations, such as speaking to white individuals with a perceived lack of respect that contradicted what white people believed they were entitled to. In 1959, when the Wrightsville boys were burned alive, was a period when segregation was still going strong. It was a long struggle for freedom, A year later, students initiated sit-ins at racially segregated lunch counters across the southern states, intending to end segregation. This marked one of the early indications of increased youth involvement that would define the civil rights movement in the 1960s. Young Black activists formed the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, SNCC, to desegregate public facilities and facilitate the registration of Black voters. Students also played a pivotal role in the freedom rides organized by the Congress of Racial Equality, CORE, and later by SNCC. In 1960, the Interstate Commerce Commission mandated the desegregation of buses and station facilities along interstate lines. To put this legislation to the test, CORE and SNCC orchestrated a series of freedom rides. These rides involved racially mixed groups of people boarding buses from the north and attempting to travel through the south. The Freedom Riders defied segregation laws by sitting wherever they pleased on the buses and sought to integrate stations that were legally prohibited from discriminating against Black individuals. In states like Alabama and Mississippi, the buses were subjected to violence. They were stoned and set on fire. Angry mobs also attacked the riders, and many were arrested. Much of this brutality was captured on film and broadcast on television news, despite the fact that many reporters and cameramen themselves were targeted and physically assaulted. In addition to desegregating lunch counters and bus stations, the civil rights movement also aimed to change the American education system. The movement played a critical role in pushing for the enforcement of desegregation orders and ensuring equal access to quality education for Black students. Activists, including parents, students, and community leaders, engaged in protests, boycotts, and other forms of direct action to advocate for equal educational opportunities. As a result of these efforts, school districts across the United States were compelled to integrate their schools, allowing Black students to attend previously all-white institutions. This shift aimed to provide equal educational resources, facilities, and opportunities for Black students, challenging the discriminatory practices that had long hindered their academic progress. The Arkansas dormitory fire of 1959 left a lasting impact on the history of racial injustice and the fight for civil rights. Even though it quickly faded from the news, this tragedy claimed the lives of 21 Black teenagers. It served as a tragic reminder of the ongoing struggle for equality and justice. The fire, along with other events of racial violence during that era, fueled the determination of activists and organizations to challenge segregation, fight for equal rights, and pave the way for significant changes in the American education system. This is the kind of event that should have been taught in school. Another story that they should have taught in school is the Scottsboro Boys case. The 9 young Black teenagers from Alabama had their lives ruined after getting accused of 2 white women near Scottsboro. We covered this case in a recent documentary. Click the video on the screen to watch it. We'll see you over there.
The future.
Shit, boy.
They did go through a lot for us. I think we should have stayed segregated.
You think we should have stayed segregated?
Yeah.
Would have had a lot more going on than we got now.
Yeah,
I think so.
It would have been better for us because we know our own people, man. They don't really care about us. You know, we should have just fought for like equal rights, but I think we should have stayed segregated. You know what I'm saying?
Segregated, we would have had our towns. We would have had certain towns. It would have been like 2 cities, huh? Would have been white cities. It would have been black cities.
Black city, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it would have worked out. You know what I'm saying? I think it would have worked out. And if you want to go to the white city, you could. And if they want to come to the black city, you know, they probably could come. You know, but I think it would have been better.
Yeah.
A lot of that stuff happened because they trying to be in there with the white people, not making excuses for the white people. We should just left their ass alone, went on about our way, and fuck them.
Could have policed our own community.
Yeah, you know, we could have did a lot for our own community.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah.
So
yeah, for real. That means we got our own judges and everything. It's segregated.
Yeah,
We got our own. It's segregated.
We got our own everything.
Yeah, we got our own banks. We got our own everything.
The same way they do niggas when they catch niggas out of bounds, we doing the white boys the same way.
Same thing happen when we catch you at a bank.
Yeah, you whistling at our women, you gonna get home. You ain't whistling, but you whistle. You shouldn't even been over here. You whistle. You know, they get to seeing that shit. They'll get their shit together. You know, so
yeah. Nah, facts.
Them was some tough times, man.
Yeah. That man, that was a good one right there, bro. That was a good one, bro. I'm glad.
Let me give you something to think about, man.
That give you something to think about right there. We'll give you something to think about. We're gonna keep this. I definitely got to subscribe to Buddy. If I ain't subscribed, I definitely got to subscribe to him. What was that? Hidden Black History. You know what I'm saying? I definitely got to subscribe to Buddy. You know what I'm saying? Y'all got to go subscribe to Black Culture Unlocked. Y'all gotta go subscribe to Black Culture Unlocked. We're gonna give y'all some more videos from him because he look like he gonna have some shit for us. You know what I'm saying? He gonna have some shit for us, man. Yeah, they came to the Black City, not the East Side, taking this bitch. Yeah, for real. They done took the East Side. They done took the East Side, for real.
Welfare in this country. And when it comes.
Oh, you ready?
Yeah. This another one?
Yeah, how the U.S. government destroyed the black families.
Okay.
In the welfare system that we are concerned about removing. Ultimately, we are concerned about a guaranteed annual income. And the other thing I think it is very necessary to say is that everybody's on welfare in this country. And when it comes to black people and poor people, we just call it something else. When it's for white people and rich, we call it subsidies.
It's no secret, fatherless households are more common in the Black community. A survey from the American Consensus Institution revealed that 67% of Black children under 18 in the US live in homes without fathers. This is a stark contrast to white children, as only 24% of them live in fatherless homes. But it wasn't always like that. The Black families survived generations of open racism, widespread poverty, and slavery. They lived through segregation and violence, and strong family bonds used to be the norm.
As of 1960, 2/3 of all Black American children were living with both parents. That declined over the years until only 1/3 were living with both parents in 1995. So it's not the legacy of slavery that destroys the African American family.
It's the legacy of the welfare state.
Between 1890 and 1950, the marriage rate was much higher among Black women than white women. A fraction of Black children lived in homes without their fathers. But everything changed with the expansion of the welfare state. It divided the household and created a dependency on welfare. This kind of reminds me of what President Reagan said.
I've always felt the 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
So, what happened? What's the mechanism? Here is a detailed look at how the welfare state played a role in the dissolving of the family structure over the years. People say that the breakdown of traditional family units, family structures, is a byproduct of Black poverty, not just because there is no man to support the family financially, but also because women tend to earn less than men on average. Of course, the connection between the two is there, but it goes deeper than that. Welfare was a mean little business. It was designed to get people by in a pinch. Public assistance programs, like welfare entitlements, have been a part of American culture since the 1940s. Unfortunately, like in many other aspects of government institutions, Black Americans were left out. In time, Black people could also get financial support, but it wasn't easy. Mothers who applied for checks had to let social workers inspect their homes to see if their conditions were suitable for welfare. These workers also had to make sure no man was living in the house. But even if they qualified for support, the amount they received was meager and not enough to build a stable life. In the early 1960s, welfare was not yet common, even in the most impoverished Black communities. In the decade that followed, the number of Black people on welfare went up by 169%. They further increased by 30% from 1970 to 1975. In 1972, New York City, almost 1 out of every 6 residents was on welfare. A major portion of these households were Black. Although Black people were only around a tenth of all Americans, they made up almost 50% of all welfare recipients by the late 70s. A recent UNICEF report showed that many children under 18 in America struggle financially. and African American children are nearly 4 times more likely to be in poverty than white children. Though the number of families receiving cash assistance has decreased since 1996, child poverty rates for Black children in the US remain high. This outcome is not by accident. I studied the evolution of social welfare policies in the US from the New Deal to the 1996 reforms and found that these policies have been discriminatory from the start. And a lot of people can confess to that. This led many Black families to fall into cultural and economic ruin. In a short period, healthy Black people started relying on government assistance to achieve some level of normalcy. But within the city slums, that normalcy was impossible to get. Black children barely knew their fathers, and most were raised by unemployed and unmarried mothers stuck in a cycle of poverty and modest paychecks. This marked a significant shift in Black American history. The consequences were severe for the next generation. Let's start with the Social Security Act of 1935. It was introduced during Franklin Roosevelt's administration. It was designed to create the safety net in the country, safeguarding families from losing their income. It was viewed as a significant part of New Deal reform and paved the way for federal protections in the future, such as the Affordable Care Act and Medicare. This policy had 2 main parts. The first part had social insurance programs that provided financial support to dependents of deceased or incapacitated workers and Social Security for retired older Americans. The second part comprised means-tested public assistance programs, initially known as Aid to Dependent Children and later renamed Aid to Families with Dependent Children. In 1962, under the Kennedy administration, ideally, it was believed that as the overall quality of life in the country improved, more families could support themselves without needing financial assistance from the ADC program. Eventually, the ADC program would become unnecessary and gradually phase out on its own. But this posed a major problem for Black Americans. Like any other component of the New Deal, the origins of the Social Security Act were deeply rooted in racism. During the 1930s and 1940s, Black people had to deal with widespread racial discrimination in the workplace. They held low-paying jobs, often paid in cash and off the books. This made them ineligible for social insurance programs. The ADC program was an extension of state-run programs that supported widowed mothers, but mostly benefited white widows. The states decided eligibility and need, and since the separate but equal doctrine was in place, Blacks were still excluded from fully participating. Jim Crow laws and the separate but equal doctrine led to a system with different services for whites and Blacks. But as we all know by now, they were far from equal. States made efforts to cut down ADC enrollment and costs. They proposed residency requirements to prevent Blacks from the South from qualifying for the program. In 1935, there was a hearing on a bill, and the NAACP, an organization that fights for civil rights, expressed their concerns. Southern politicians wanted to exclude agricultural and domestic workers from the bill. This meant that many Black workers couldn't get the support they needed. This exclusion would particularly affect Black sharecroppers and cash tenants, who were already struggling to make ends meet. Even though the NAACP was highly against it, the Social Security Act was approved. That's why 65% of African Americans nationwide were not eligible for benefits, and an even larger percentage of these Black families in the South were excluded from the program. In the 1950s and 60s, things got even worse for Black families. Welfare checks incentivized single-mother households, and there was one rule that ruined it all: the man-in-the-house rule. Black families have long been the victims of income inequality and bad government policies. The irony, of course, is that conservatives pushed Black mothers to break their families to get welfare. Before 1968, many states and administrative agencies created and enforced the man-in-the-house rule. This rule basically meant that if there is a working or healthy man in the house, the government can't help you. And they would go as far as to send welfare workers to visit the homes without warning to check if a man was present. If they found any evidence whatsoever, families lost their welfare benefits. Over the years, the welfare state started dissolving the family structure, slowly but surely. A man who can't get a decent job and provide a substantial income suddenly believes that his family is better off without him. So, if a man were to lose his job, he literally had to leave the house so his children could get government surplus peanut butter, beans, and cheese. On the other hand, if either the woman or the man, or both, were irresponsible, they faced no consequences for their actions. And it was the taxpayers who ended up paying for it. These things aren't exactly designed to keep the marriage intact. They are meant to divide people. The harm done to the children was massive. Many children experienced the hurt from broken families at such a young age. In 1960, just 33% of Black American children didn't live with two parents, but by 1988, that rate went up to 61%. In that time, the proportion of Black children born to single mothers rose from 23% to more than 60%. This is exactly why we can't judge government policies based on their ideals, but based on their results. And these results, well, left a ton of households fatherless. I mean, think about it. What would the result have been if this welfare policy had required the opposite of that? That both parents live in the same home and care for their children to receive government assistance. The welfare state did what slavery couldn't do. It broke families apart. And broken families fuel poverty. The structure of the family can influence the choices children make. For example, boys raised without their fathers are more likely to drop out of school, get violence, use drugs, or go to jail. Girls are more likely to have a child out of wedlock or engage in sexual activities at a very early age. These children are also more prone to mental health problems, which can affect them as adults. A psychology test detailed in Roy Baumeister and John Tierney's book, Willpower, showed that children from fatherless households were more likely to settle for a small prize straight away. In contrast, children with fathers present were more willing to wait for a bigger prize. Experts from the Northwestern Institute for Policy Research challenged that these effects are primarily due to dangerous neighborhoods or poor schools. They found that the direct effect of family structure itself played a more significant role. As marriage rates declined among the poor and working class in the US, the institution of marriage has remained strong among the wealthier population, with similar rates to those from 50 years ago. At the same time, the decrease in marriage among the working class has led to a significant rise in out-of-wedlock births, often to couples who are living together without being married. This happens because people view marriage as an ideal situation, but feel it is unachievable, yet they still want to have children. In the mid-1980s, the rates of fatherless households dramatically increased. Today, just 44% of Black children live with their fathers. Also, a lot more Black children are born outside of marriage. The rates of such cases went up from 24.5% in 1964 to 70.7% by 1994, which remains at a similar level today. Many people blame the expansion of welfare programs for the breakdown of Black families. Since 1935, people have had access to cash welfare, but this welfare was quite modest and not enough to cover any of the living expenses. With Johnson's Great Society, which began in 1964, welfare benefits became much more generous and controlled. When I mean controlled, I mean crazy. The man in the house rule discouraged marriage because it provided welfare assistance to mothers if no man was living in the house. If a mother married an employed man, even one earning the minimum wage, it jeopardized her financial support. These benefits were huge. The Great Society programs offered a way out for low-income Black families. This could be why, in 1964, only 7% of American children were born out of wedlock, compared to the current rate of 40%. So basically, the government urged mothers to keep fathers out of the home and paid them well for doing so. Shifts in the labor market and deindustrialization greatly impacted job opportunities, especially for low-skilled workers. It hurt both whites and Black people, but Black communities were the most affected. Here's an example. Imagine a city like Detroit, where the manufacturing industry was the top employer, and many Black men held manufacturing jobs. Here, in the 1970s, 56% of Black men were in the manufacturing industry, but by 2000, it dropped to 26%. Over the years, technological advancements and economic shifts created a demand for skilled workers in other sectors, like healthcare or technology. These new jobs required a higher level of education and specialized skills. The problem was the lower level of education among Black men on average. As jobs increasingly required education beyond high school, Black men faced many challenges. This made it harder for them to adapt to the changing job market and find new employment in other industries. White men were better equipped to handle the changing job market. They had higher education and a greater chance of securing well-paid jobs in emerging industries. Then there was the 90s gear change. In the late 1990s, efforts to reform the
Showing up on the first page of Google might not be the best for everyone. But for business owners, it is.
AFDC program took on more subtle forms of racism. Critics claim that the program encouraged out-of-wedlock births, irresponsible fatherhood, and dependency across generations. During this time, there was a lot of public concern about the cost of welfare programs. Some people believe that the programs contributed to rising taxes and national debt. It tapped into public fears and created a seriously negative perception of people who received welfare. There were a lot of misconceptions and stereotypes about those who lived in poverty. So, the reform bill that was eventually passed replaced the AFDC with TANF, temporary assistance to needy families. The new bill imposed stricter work requirements, expecting single mothers to find work within 2 years of receiving benefits. There was also a 5-year limit on receiving benefits. To promote traditional family values, teenage mothers didn't receive benefits. But that was not all. If a father were to fall behind on child support payments, they could face threats of imprisonment. The bill restricted the use of federally funded TANF for certain groups of immigrants. There were also eligibility limitations on Medicaid, food stamps, and supplementary Social Security income, SSI. These measures were just too harsh. They made it difficult for families in need to get proper financial support. Instead of addressing the root of poverty and creating new employment opportunities, it just punished those who already struggled financially. Well, today, modern problems require new solutions. According to Forbes, the economic status of Black Americans is still far behind compared to white people in terms of stock ownership, net worth, income, home ownership, and other metrics. In the United States, Black workers earn about 30% less than white workers. Almost 50% of Black workers are working in retail, food services, healthcare, and accommodation, and a huge chunk of these workers are doing lower paying services. Imagine getting paid more than 40% less than white men for doing the exact same job. If you are a Black woman in the US, this is more likely to happen. In 2020, Black women earned around 58% of what white men earned on average. Similar to Latinas and Native women, Black women face a much more significant pay gap compared to all women. This is because they face both racism and sexism in the workplace. Today, the Social Security program is a backbone for many Black families. It protects them through disability, retirement, or death. The program is crucial because African Americans often lack financial resources and have higher disability rates. The program is meant to help those who earn low income get benefits. Those who heavily rely on Social Security are older Black people with lower lifetime earnings and fewer pension benefits. For example, in 2017, 35% of married and 58% of unmarried older Black people received 90% or more of their income from Social Security. Despite its importance, Black Americans still benefit less overall from the program because of the ongoing pay disparities and shorter life expectancies. These factors result in lower lifetime earnings and, in turn, reduce the total benefits received from Social Security. In 2005, President George W. Bush wanted to make some changes and planned to privatize the program. But the NAACP responded with a nationwide campaign called SOS, Save Our Social Security, and partnered with the Congressional Black to keep the program safe. It worked. Social Security is still an important support system for countless families. Unfortunately, our country has made very few efforts to reduce the disparities in wealth and income between Black and white households. Despite laws against pay discrimination, Black men earn 83 cents and Black women earn 62 cents for every dollar earned by white men. Also, practices like redlining or housing discrimination have made it nearly impossible or much less profitable for Black families to own homes. These structural barriers create fewer opportunities for Black people to accumulate wealth and save for retirement. When the pandemic hit, Social Security became even more critical. Many Black adults lost jobs, and many small businesses were forced to close. The coronavirus made it very difficult to keep up with mortgage or rental payments. The thing is, today, more Black Americans are more likely to enter a church to go to a funeral than to celebrate a wedding. Fatherless homes, declining marriage rates, and high divorce rates are challenging the Black community to the core. Imagine as a young child living in poverty with a single mother in a poor and drug-infested neighborhood. Over the years, you would have witnessed how this would impact your chances of success, like finishing high school and getting a good job. Because of this, many Black children are raised with little expectations or a sense of hope. Now, some might argue that it takes a village to raise a kid, but in reality, the urban public housing village is drenched in toxic influences like violence, drugs, and bad role models. And in that village, fatherless boys are left alone to figure out what it takes to be a man. So, where do they look? To one another. And in many cases, they turn to gangs and the streets. Girls' lives, too, are deeply damaged in fatherless households. Without a father figure, young girls can experience psychological and emotional challenges. They can have lower self-esteem and struggle to form healthy relationships with men. Teen pregnancy is a common problem. They can also struggle with economic hardships and poor academic performance. For things to change, we need to acknowledge that the absence of Black men is damaging countless households. To fill this void, it is essential to reunite fathers with their children, but also to teach the younger generation the value of family structures. But this is something that will take time and a lot of effort. All in all, the US welfare system is a clear reflection of its economic policies and the nation's long history of racism. From the very beginning, the policy excluded Black Americans who were already struggling financially. The man in the house rule only made things worse, which greatly impacted Black households. The expansion of welfare led to a decrease in fathers' involvement in raising their children, leaving mothers to struggle alone in jobless poverty. This created a new reality for poor Blacks. where work became optional, fathers were rare, and dysfunction became common. The lack of family loyalty and work ethic led to a new oppositional racial outlook among young Black males who often resorted to crime. Now, years later, the impact of the rule can still be felt. A lot of Black children have grown up without a father, and they can easily go astray. The situation is hard for overworked and exhausted single mothers. The more children they had, the harder it was to get a job. I just want to point out the brutal reality that led to such circumstances. The welfare culture discouraged individual responsibility. It pushed people to make hard choices, which damaged their families and put everyone involved in challenging positions. This is a reality that many now have to live with. If you enjoyed this documentary, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. We aren't just telling stories, we're changing lives and waking the culture up. The video on the screen shares why they are banning Black history in schools. Click on it now to watch. It will change your perspective on our history.
Another good one, man. Another good one, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. That's the type of shit we got going on right here, man. You know what I'm saying? We giving our history lessons, man. We putting y'all on what's going around the world. Ain't no telling what you might see on the YOLO show. You understand me? Every now and then we might have a special guest. Every now and then. But we ain't bringing people up to the panel like that. That ain't what we no. This ain't about the ass. This ain't about the ass. But hopefully y'all got something about the lesson. You understand me? You know what I mean? Y'all see how they did us, bro. This shit been going on since the 60s. Man, they on a whole nother time about right now, man.
Yeah, that's why they do it though, because they know if the father in the house, it'll change the whole dynamics.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of us probably went to jail. A lot of us will probably have more structure. You know, thinking right, thinking different. We'll know how to treat women. You know what I'm saying? The women will know how to treat men. You know what I'm saying? It'll be a whole lot of stuff different. So
if they would have promoted that shit, bro.
Yeah, but
you know,
they don't want to promote it.
No, like if they would have gave out government assistance to the household that had two parents, my nigga, that would have saved a lot of people. You know how many lives that would have saved, man?
No,
that would have saved plenty of
fuck
lives,
saving.
bro.
We would have surpassed them. They don't want us to surpass them. That's why they did it. They don't want us to get ahead of them. We would have went way past them.
But
Now you got thinking Black.
But the government tricking us, giving us assistance when they knowing this ain't right to keep the father out the household. You steady pulling us apart. You steady pulling us apart while y'all get miles and miles and miles ahead, years and years and years ahead of us.
Yeah, but the government is the same motherfuckers that was lynching people. Some of them same motherfuckers that was lynching and hanging people are in government positions now.
Absolutely.
So they don't want us to do nothing. They want to keep us at a standstill. That was their whole mission.
But you know, some Black people feel like that government assistance is their best friend.
Yeah, and they don't even know it, but they don't see the bigger picture because they ignorant. They don't see the bigger picture.
Yeah. No, for real, bro.
You know, it's always a bigger picture to everything. You got to look at it, man. That's just the same thing with Planned Parenthood. They put that there for us to go have abortions so we won't have as many Black people. And then
it's
they
this
got
shit
mad.
go hand in hand. It went from wanting to integrate instead of when we want to integrate with them, you know what I'm saying, desegregate from them so they can do shit like this. You know what I mean? We want to be in we want to be in their neighborhoods, and we want to go through that shit so they can do us like this. You know, they say Martin Luther King, before he passed away, he said he think he just entered his people in the burning house. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You did enter us in a burning house, bro. For sure. Shout out to the committee boys, man, for real.
But you can't blame him. He did what he felt was best at the time. You know, and he had a great movement by himself. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So you can't blame him or fault him. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you can't. He had a great movement, and he had his own cause, and in his mind he it was his dream, bro, and he did what he was supposed to do. Shout out J Mac. You know what I'm saying? He did what he was supposed to do, family.
Shout out J Mac.
Well, yeah, you feel like reading that book?
I mean, now we can skip it tonight.
We're gonna skip it tonight.
Yeah, we can skip it. Let me see how long this little chapter is. We can do one. Let me see.
Can you say you want to what about 4 pages?
Yeah, about 4 pages front and back. Yeah, I can run it. I ain't tripping. I mean, yeah. Then we can go and end it. Let me load my.
Yeah, man. Shout out to Big Boy TV. You understand me? Dang. Gotta catch up. You know what I'm saying? My bad. Yeah, we had a hell of a show. We had a hell of a show today, man. Definitely had a hell of a show, man, today, man. We finna read this book, man. We're gonna close it. We're gonna close it out the way we always close it out. We always promise y'all we're gonna close it out like this. Let's go ahead and get Solo gonna bless us with a chapter today.
Yeah, from niggas to gods, man. This chapter is called Light Bright and Damn Near White. Your mama so black that she always get marked absent at night school. Oh yeah. Well, your mama so bald headed that she got to roll her hair up with rice. All y'all mamas just big, black, and bald headed. They just plain ugly. You got a big old black greasy cornbread and neck bone looking mama. Your mama about as black as the bottom of a southern country skillet. She got all them tight naps pulling on her head. Your mama hair so nappy that she got to get constant headaches. She need to do something about all them naps. She probably can't afford to get her hair fixed. She need to go shoplifting and steal her one of them do-it-yourself kitchen pans from the grocery store. Man, your mama just in bad shape. Where did your father find her ghetto-looking ass anyway? Man, I'm not gonna mess up like your father did. I'm gonna find me a good-looking woman. She gonna be real light-skinned with light-colored eyes. She can't be all black and burnt looking like your mama. My wife is gonna be mixed. My wife is gonna have long, straight hair all the way down to her butt. Since she's going to be mixed, her hair is going to be naturally straight. She ain't gonna have no problem with no naps like your mama does. My wife gonna have good hair. All my kids gonna have good hair too, naturally curly. Also, my wife ain't gonna be all healthy like your mama. She gonna be skinny like them white girls on TV and in the magazines. Hey, if I go to college, I can probably pull me one of them white girls for a wife. I heard that them college white girls love the brothers, especially if you play basketball or football. Okay. Okay, so did the language of the preceding several paragraphs sound familiar to you? Did that sound like the opinions of somebody you know? Did that sound like the opinions of yourself? Have you ever made statements similar to those? I used to think like that back in the days of extreme ignorance. I was obviously a brain dead devil damn fool with no knowledge of the truth in self. Our people were directly and indirectly taught to hate their natural black selves. Black is bad. Wear white to a wedding and black to funeral. Devil food cake is black. Angel food cake is white. If you know something bad about you, I could blackmail you. You can tell a little white lie, but it's better not tell a big black lie.
Oh shit, he going off.
Our people were conditioned to hate everything about themselves that was natural and black. We hate our black beauty because we were taught to define our own beauty according to these white Anglo, Cascado, European, westernized beauty standards. So this means that anything less than blue eyes and blonde hair is considered less than beautiful. The further you get away from the blonde hair and blue eyes, the uglier you get. This is what we were taught. This means that if you got black eyes, black hair, and black skin, you are the ugliest thing on the planet. Well, if this is true, why are those crazy white folks laying out in the middle of the sun trying to get their skin darker when they ain't gonna get nothing but skin cancer? How in the hell do you plan to conquer the universe and run from the sun at the same time, silly fools? Your blackness is hated around the world, but most of all, it is hated by you. You want blue contact lenses so that you look more like a blue-eyed people that hung your black ass from a tree. You want light skin so that you can look more like the people who murdered hundreds of millions of your black foreparents and dumped them into the Atlantic Ocean between Africa and America. You want straight, longer hair like a white woman, even though she was the one left horny and lonely while her savage white husband was in the slave quarters raping one of his black nappy-headed slaves. Why do you want to look like these psychopath, murderous, cold-blood, rapist motherfuckers? Yes, I said this motherfuckers, and there was no slip of the tongue. I am telling you the truth. Rapist motherfucker. A motherfucker is an individual who is the fucker of mothers. The white man is historically fuckers of mothers around the world. A historical rapist. He was the fucker of your foremothers and the fuckers of my foremothers. This is why we come in so many different shades of black now. The blood of the rapist motherfucker is in all of us. Don't you ever forget that. And don't you ever forget how it got there. If somebody raped you tonight and it had on a green sweater, you would go out tomorrow and purchase a whole wardrobe full of green sweaters to look just like that person that raped you. Hell no. You wouldn't do such a crazy thing. So why would you bend over backwards to look like people who have historically murdered and raped your forefathers and continuously rape you, continuously rape your motherland of all its minerals and riches? You are just crazy as they are. And where do you think the word motherfucker originated anyway? Here you are, an original black people of the universe trying to look like the original motherfucker. I don't think that I'm being vulgar because your white slave masters earned this title, the original motherfuckers. Yes, I'm talking to all you sisters out there. I don't blame you for your ignorance of the past, but now that you know the truth, let the truth make you free. Let the truth make you free from that so-called beauty shop appointment on Saturday. Now that you know the truth, why would you keep on burning your scalp? Why would you keep on frying your hair? Why would you keep on bleaching your hair or dyeing it to a lighter color? Why would you continue to put harmful chemicals on your scalp while knowing all at the same time your scalp has pores? Have you ever thought for a second that these chemicals can get into your pores and therefore into your system? If they do, then what vital body organ might the chemical get into first? Is it your brain? Have you ever thought about that? Have you ever thought about these reasons the doctors tell you not to put chemicals in your hair during pregnancy? Maybe it is because the chemicals can get into the system and harm the unborn child. If these chemicals can affect the health of your child, do you think these same chemicals can affect your own health? Think about it. After hearing this truth, don't continue being the same slave mentality having nigga that you were yesterday. Open your beautiful black eyes and be the beautiful black gods and beautiful black goddess that you were born to be. Don't run around here trying to look like the historical enemies. All of these beautiful black women running around looking crazy with these temporary permanents in their head. Your straight hair is temporary, but you are permanently broke because you are trying to get your hair fixed every 2 weeks. And if it was broken in the first place, don't try to fix it. What ain't broken? Who told you that your hair was broken anyway? Stop looking like fool while white folks just laughing at you because you trying to look like them. You are making a fool of yourself. If you saw the majority of white women out here trying to make their hair nappy, you would think they were crazy. What if white women all of a sudden started spending close to $1,000 a year individually on chemicals to make their hair nappy? Add up how much you spend a year to get your so-called broken hair fixed. What if the white women started spending all their money trying to get braids, dreadlocks, twists, or just basic naps because they wanted to look more like you? When you look at them as if they were crazy, don't you think they look at you crazy? They would look like fools doing that foolish thing, and you do look like fools doing the foolish thing. So, my dear sisters, please be your black self and keep your natural black beauty, because God didn't make a mistake. God didn't make a mistake when making you strong, bold, and beautiful naps as opposed to weak, limp, lifeless strands of hair. Your Creator made your beauty naturally unique. Your Creator wanted your black natural beauty to stand out amongst the people of the world. God is trying to tell you something about your uniqueness. Have you ever noticed that all of the people of the world have limp, straight hair? White, yellow, red, brown, and some jet black people have straight hair and limp. But why did God make your hair? Why did God make your hair of a tribe of people unique? Nobody has your unique texture or beautiful hair. But what is the God trying to say? Why does the Bible describe Jesus as having hair like lamb wool in the book of Revelation, black skin and hair like dried raisins? Why does God want to make uniqueness of hair more than clear to us? The God didn't make any mistake by making our beauty supernatural. When we dance, it just comes natural to us, but it is supernatural to white folks. When we sing, it just comes natural to us, but to white folks, it's supernatural. When we slam dunk a basketball, it comes natural to us, but it is supernatural to white folks. When we talk slang, it comes natural to us, but it is supernatural for white. How we devise new words for communication on a daily basis. How we have survived in this society under centuries of oppression and that is a natural thing for us, but white folks think that it is supernatural. How we have survived all these centuries of this black Holocaust. Yes, we died, but we also multiply. If they just break a fingernail, they fall out on the floor, having a nervous breakdown, emotional weakness. Our thick lips are natural to us, but supernatural to white folks. Our strong, kinky hair is natural to us, but supernatural to white folks. Not even their strongest chemicals can keep our hair permanently straight. Our buttocks are natural to us, but to them, supernatural. Yes, we can wear a pair of pants without a belt. Our strong nose and wide nostrils are natural to us, but they are supernatural to white folks. Yes, we can breathe freely, and we don't have annoying nasal voices. Our historical greatness is natural to us, but to them it's supernatural. The Sphinx and the pyramids were just natural to us, but to white folks it's supernatural. Our blackness is natural to us, but to white folks it's supernatural phenomenon. Black people, be your supernatural, beautiful black selves. God didn't make any mistake, so don't you. God didn't make any mistakes, so don't you. The God didn't make any mistakes, so don't you. Peace, black people. That was that chapter. End of the chapter.
Peace and love. Good chapter, man. That was a good chapter, man. That's how we ending this motherfucker today, man. That's how we end it
Yeah,
today,
yeah,
man.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Hopefully y'all enjoyed the show. This is number 4. It's coming, man. We steady coming. We steady
Now,
rocking.
Brian Quinn. That's from niggas to God.
From niggas to gods. You know what I'm saying? Yes, sir. Part 1.
Part 1.
Volume 1.
And we got part 2, so it's gonna be some long dark nights.
It's gonna be some long dark nights. It's gonna be some long dark nights. Yeah, we got part 2, so it's gonna be some long dark nights for real. Facts. But yeah, man, we're gonna see y'all in a bit, man. We're gonna get up out of here.
Yes, sir. Appreciate y'all tapping in, man.
Yeah, rocking with the show, man. I hope y'all enjoyed our show, man. You know what I'm saying? Us dropping these gems, man. Hopefully, y'all, you know what I'm saying? We're gonna keep this shit going, man. Keep this shit going. We be right back.
Right back.